Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book to Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel to life in Minecraft, one block at a time. Today's episode, we're down here in my little bunker, so I wanted to check up on my to-do list. So over here is just the things left for the Volcano City. So we got the Great Hall, Industrial District, the Temple, gotta get a couple more houses in there, whether it's creating new ones or just copying over the ones I've already created. I've got to finish the market, add a little bit more commercial space, and then the bank and the mint. So I've been using this map originally, but ever since I installed Journey Map, I guess we can head up and I'll show you a little bit better on that one. We got our teleport room in here if you haven't seen this yet. This is where I'm going to teleport to all the different locations in the world. So we got the Frostcrag Peaks, which is the location I've been working on for the past 30 or so episodes. This is all my testing areas, so where I did my paths and trees and other things. And then I've got plenty more to fill up as I go to different locations within the world. So we got our lake village, the secret cave, the tunnel, starting village, and we're going to the main city. So that's going to bring me right out front, the front gates over here. Let's speed up a little bit. So in the last episode we got our library done, and it's looking really in place, really filling out the area a bit more. So in today's episode, we're going to go for the Great Hall. Alright, since we're deciding on the Grand Hall, or the Great Hall, whatever we want to call it, this is the plan where I had it originally. I kind of had it peeking out here so it had a nice view of this open area, just so we could have something on this side of the volcano, because it was kind of feeling a little bare. Problem is, how are we going to get to it? It's not like they're going to climb the mountain like this to get up, so I've kind of thought it's about equal to here, so I think I'm going to make the entrance somewhere over here, and then just have it go all the way through. So if we turn on no clip, we just have to kind of snake it around this little lava tunnel. So either around this side or on that side, but give it enough space to make it still feel grand. And then just have a kind of poking out bit over here so that it feels kind of grand and has like a balcony feeling to look over onto this half of the city. So first things first, let's get to designing the entrance over here. Alright, so first things first is we have to fix this pathway because it's a little too close to where I want the kind of entrance. I want it kind of around here, so you come up the... Oop, little turn that off. This is a little messy right now. We gotta fix up the path, but we want it to like come up all this way. I need the bridge over to this, and then it's kind of the entrance is gonna be here. So maybe if we push the path back a decent chunk, so we're gonna hop into Axiom. We're going to flatten down, and I just want to kind of remove this entire path for now. It can always be easily brought back in, but if we grab that much, it's hard to see with all the clouds now since how high up we are. We want a decent chunk here, so let's push it back even more, kind of flatten it out, and then we can bring the mountain out a little bit in front of it. So we're going to have kind of a nice large door. Not too much detail, like we're not doing like a building on the outside, because most of the building will be on the inside of the mountain itself. Alright, so this is my first kind of little idea of having it kind of concentric little, getting smaller slightly each one, just to add a bit of depth to the build. And then we got our huge giant wooden doors, using these shelves again, both sides. Not sure if I'm going to do it like this, or I found this worked in one of my other bits. If I just remove every other one and then flip those down, maybe like that. Or if we go for the other trapdoor to keep it consistent with the dark oak, let's see if this looks better. Oop. Gotta be careful not to destroy any or place any in, because in creative mode it is a pain to remove these. To shift right click and then do it again. Open your empty hand. We're going to place another one back here just so we can complete the vision. It's hard to see at this time of day, so let's switch it down a little so we get a little bit of shade. Alright, I think I'm going to play around with these, but I think I prefer this to just the plain shelving. But now that we have the front door entrance area complete, we can head on inside. Alright, so for inside here, I just hollowed out a little bit, and then we're going to slide into the wall here. So our goal is to get to around out here. So what I'm probably going to do is just dig a tunnel between the two for now, and then just use that as a way. I might just redirect this lava stream. That might just be easier to have it going either under or over top, and then, or I can make it part of it. If I just shift it back a couple blocks, I could have it kind of running through the side of the hallway. That might be a cool idea. So let's first get a little bit of a tunnel, just so we have something to work with. So I use my extrude tool. Let's toss that in there. Actually, let's grab a torch and then throw that into my offhand. It'll only help a little bit, but if we just keep going, we're going to run into that lava fairly quickly. There we are. So if I just keep going like this, kind of exposed. So maybe we take this and then kind of do a curve. So we have like the general entrance, and then it curves a little bit and then opens up into a larger hall, because I want the hall to be quite large. You can kind of see it a little better from in here. So we need to get to over there. So the main hall would obviously be over here. This would be kind of the entrance. So let's mark out a giant kind of square for now, and then we can work on getting the internals. Alright, so most of the rest of this episode is going to be without shaders, just because we're working inside and the darkness can get quite difficult. If I turn them back on, this is the kind of brightest. You can kind of see my brightening thing. If I get this out, you can maybe see it flashes, but that's as bright as it gets with the shaders on. So we're going to shaders off for the rest, just so we can build. So I've gotten my big chunk out here. I've cleaned up the little balcony area. Probably won't be squared off. I'll probably have it curve around just for structure and then get some supports underneath. But this is going to be the grand hall here. I could probably maybe push it back a few. We'll have a giant staircase down here that's going to lead up into this area where it'll be kind of like a giant feast hall, where we'll have the feasts and all other kind of big ceremonial things for the Dwarven lands of inside the Frostcrag Peaks. So if there's any like big, oh, we need to go to war, or we need to make this big deal, or there's an emissary visiting, that's what would happen in here. So let's get a little bit more shape. I've also included the area where the lava will come through. I gotta fix all this, bring some more in. Kind of just goes underneath, so I'll have probably like a little iron bar or copper bar barrier, so that the lava is kind of a piece of this hallway. I also gotta clean up this hallway so it's not just a very boring one. I'll need to add details, some pillars, maybe a bit of arches, and then of course lighting, so that I don't need to turn off shaders in the future. Alright, and here is the grand hallway. So I've added a lot more color than I usually do, but this is kind of the grand, most expensive probably build in this entire kind of mountain region, just because it's the Great Hall that represents the dignity of the dwarves of this land. So I copied over my little chandelier from actually down below. It's actually from my big library, but since it's not an odd number, it's an even number in width, I have to kind of just copy it over and double it in size. So that's giving, it seems like, enough light for this area. And I alternated between the acacia and the pale oak. The acacia just because it kind of matches in with the copper. Let's actually check, see, what does it look like if it's just acacia? I mean, I can see doing that, but I did like a little bit of the variation that the pale oak gives. I might play around with the different wood types, see which ones kind of mesh the best, and then I went with each of the different variations of the copper. So we had the regular, weathered, exposed, and then oxidized. Just because it gives a nice rainbow type gradient, and it's just a very simple build. I got my little volcano, like the lava path, using the reinforced deep slate as kind of pillars to hold this whole thing up. And then if we come through here, I've started on the staircase. Yes, back off the shaders because we haven't lit up in here yet. So the staircase opens up into this big area where I started planning out where I want things. So I'm thinking I want like the big table of like the important people will sit here kind of maybe shift out onto the balcony a little bit, and then have just a bunch of tables in here for where great feasts will happen. And like I said earlier, with like the receiving emissaries from other lands far away outside this region, we can have lots of people kind of stored in here for feasts and things like that. So I got my main path in here, so I'll probably thin it out a little bit, maybe just bring it in a couple, and then have it go down the center. I'm thinking of having it kind of wrap around, just so like these won't be like this. This is kind of my planning stage. I'll have a bunch of big chairs that I'll have to build, and probably, I don't know, maybe a dozen at most, and then they'll have their own feasting table. So this is like the more highborn, so kings, queens, royalty, maybe like high nobility or special guests like a grand wizard joins them for a feast, they would be given like an honorary seat at the table. And then the rest would just be for the regular people that attend this kind of thing. So like knights and things below that and things like that. I don't really have a concrete mind because in the book, this isn't even really mentioned. Or at least in the draft I'm in currently, it's not mentioned because the main character has no business being in this area. It's more of just setting the setting. Maybe later on, and I might create, if I ever create more books than just the one, he could come back, visit this area, or maybe a different character visits and is granted an audience, and they experience the things that the main character in my current book never got a chance to. So we're going to have to do a little bit more planning, fix this box shape a little bit, maybe copy over like the plan of like an arch kind of thing, have a bunch of pillars to support this giant area because it's not going to support itself, and then we can get on to detailing the tables, chairs, and setting up maybe a small little feast. Alright, little midpoint check-in. I've gotten a decent chunk done afterwards, so I've finished up the stairs and the kind of siding to them, using a bit of walls for that depth, as I'm always talking about. And then I went for a kind of checkerboard pattern floor, just using the stone and then the polished steep slate. As you can see, I've finished the walls, the roof, a little bit of a out-hanging bit. I've still got to figure out what I want to do here detail-wise, but I've got it going slightly back with the shelving in there just for that more depth. I also made all these little pillars here. I'm not sure if I'm happy with the orange of the regular copper. I might switch it out for either the regular iron chain, or maybe I'll switch it out for one of the weathered states or oxidized states. I'm still trying to figure out how to do the tables and chairs. It's hard to do it at this scale because I would like to have like this be the stool and then have something like a shelf holding it up. But then at the table, you're going to have to go all the way like up to here if you want to place anything on it. Like all the way up there. So it's getting a little bit too high. I guess it would be, here would be the real height. But then imagine your table is at height level of a regular person. That's just not right. So I gotta figure out how to do it probably just the boring way with the stairs. And then maybe I'll mix in a bit of the shelving to add an individuality, maybe have individual seats or maybe make it stools. Alright, so I've been playing around with a couple different styles. I said it was kind of hard, but I came up with so I could get these on the floor at least. So first one I did, I had some string and then just carpet above it, but it just feels like too flat of a table, which is when I came with the trap doors. So I tried this side with the dark oak, this side with the spruce, and I think the spruce might work better. It's kind of annoying how we can't have the same kind of color. Actually, let's look at the shelf. If we take the spruce one, how does that look? Yeah, that matches that a lot better. So I think I'm going to do spruce shelving for the side instead of the dark oak. And then switch all of them to the spruce trapdoor under here. And then I'll keep the dark oak just because it works well with these kind of darker colors. I mean, you could have it like that, but it doesn't really feel like a banquet thing because in all those like banquet scenes in like different movies and pieces of media, you always see them just like a long bench that they're kind of sitting at. It'd be nice if I could bring it back a little bit, but that's the best we can do in Minecraft. So this one is to be removed. So I'll take that and remove this. And then we'll do a couple of these throughout the hall on either side. And now I got to figure out how to make the grander table. And then after that, maybe a little bit more detailing onto this roof, detailing here, and then the balcony. Alright, so I think I'm coming to the end of this build. I've gotten a decent chunk done. These are as best as I think I'm going to get them for now until I maybe come up with a better idea in the future for how to do these kind of long tables. I got a couple kind of spread out just to get it to like the maximum amount of occupancy in this area. I then got my big tables for the kind of more important people. Tried to use like different headboards for like this is maybe like the king and queen or something like that, or like the heads of state, whatever. I haven't really decided the lore of how this kind of city runs. But my next problem was lighting, because without all this, even with these chandeliers I made just quickly, they weren't enough to light everything up. But then I remembered, I'm in a volcano city. Let's just redirect some lava into here, and that gives nice lighting along the walls. And then a couple lanterns here, and then a big fire pit out front here. Now, looking at that, I'm thinking I might want to run with a hay bale. And let's just pop down under here quickly. Get these 9 blocks, throw hay bales underneath. And that should increase the height of the, yeah, you can already see it was right here before. Let's see how high it gets. So we're here. So it looks like at least double the height. So now we have if we come further away, we can see the burning fire brightly. It's not exactly centered because I wanted to center it based on this. I might shift these over to get that symmetry, but I like keeping these guys inside and protected from any, if it were to like rain or anything. But speaking of rain, there was one thing I wanted to do, and that's kind of change the biome. Because we're on a volcano, like I don't want it to like be raining all the time. I want it to feel really dry. So what I can do is if we find the biome painter, let's look through these. So Badlands maybe, I'm actually not sure what actually constitutes any. Actually, let's do this out in the outskirts so we don't mess anything up quite yet. Alright, I have started a terrain. Let's see. Yeah, you can see a little bit better without the shaders. So we're gonna Badlands. How does this look? So it's a lot drier. It doesn't look like no, there is still rain. Maybe because I did it wrong and I should do fill vertically. So it does the entire chunk. Alright, this looks like one option. What other hot options? Because we can do like the desert and stuff. But maybe if can we do like the nether stuff? So warp forest is the nether. Where else? Okay, we have Savannah. So that's another one. What else? So I don't know the names of like Crimson Forest. That's another one. So it does the same thing. Difference is this one gives like a red look into the distance, whereas these keep the same kind of horizon color. It doesn't mess with all the skybox. That might be helpful for like a later down build if I want to have like red for the nether, and then I could mix in. Ooh, it also gives these a kind of particles. Let's see what it looks like on the shaders. So with the shaders, when it rains, it is very cloudy. Or really foggy, I guess. But it was really foggy in this area. Nope, about the same. So if we hop over to these ones, it's going to look the same. But I think I like the Badlands just because of how it's doing the grass. I'm not sure because I won't really have too much grass going on in the build. But maybe we could try it. So let's go back to Badlands. So that's going to, look, it kind of kills the grass a little bit. And it's going to stop the rain. So maybe we can play around with that, get the right ones. I don't want to mess it up too much. I guess I can just put it back if I don't like it. So let's do a little bit of biome painting. Alright, so that is all kind of done up now. So now if I go back, oh, we want to keep it on rain now. So if we do rain, it's just going to cause a lot of fog. So it kind of makes it really hard to see on the mountains here. But we're no longer getting any rain, which kind of makes sense for like a volcano area. Oh, is that a bit of rain I saw? Some of it missed. There we go. I think I got all of it now. Oh, it looks like there's a little patch. It's helpful I can see inside of it. But it's causing it to be very foggy, which kind of gives a nice cool effect for this area instead of the rain, which makes a little bit more sense. Alright, and I think that is going to do it. So we're headed on through. I feel like I might end up changing this later to kind of dull it out, just because of how colorful it is in here. I'm not sure if that kind of fits with the theme. I think also these sidewalls might need to be kind of dimmed down, maybe like dark oak and spruce. I can try that out maybe, but a little bit later. But as we enter our kind of hall here, let's turn off this so we can fully enjoy our plated meals. So we got a feast going on. I've got some or not chandeliers, it's candelabras, just a little bit of a entity wall with some candles on top, and that adds a little bit more lighting that was needed on each of the tables. So each table has their places set, as well as our lords and such getting their fancier tables up here. But that is the entire thing. I'm not sure if I showed this just in the clip before, but I got the kind of balcony all supported up with these kind of pillars. So I'm not sure if I might maybe do some cross hatching to increase the support of it, but I think this is good for now. It can always be added more. I mean, I got like pieces like this where it's like kind of sheared off. I might kind of curve this out, maybe make it a little bit better, but for now, it's looking pretty good, and the lighting is also working. So if I head to nighttime, it also gives the right amount of lighting. Nothing looks too dark, but it also doesn't look insanely bright. But I think with that, that's where we're going to leave the episode today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.